of Months in Music, and welcome to Talking with the Guitar, where we're going to talk about how you can talk with the guitar. And we're going to basically be covering something called a pentatonic scale today, actually in kind of a cool way of kind of moving around. And what a pentatonic scale is penta means 5 and tonic means tone. And scale actually is from the Latin scala, which means to measure. So altogether, it's a 5-note ladder. And so we basically have 5 notes, and my favorite pentatonic scale is an E minor pentatonic scale or a G major pentatonic scale. And what that means, actually, the E minor, G major, is if you know an E minor chord where you put the first finger on the A string second, second finger on the D string second, then that E minor chord actually is, that means that scale would work over that chord. It's kind of a sad sound. Or a G major means that it would happen over G major. If you know G major, first finger on the A string, second fret, second finger on the low E third, third finger on the high E string on the third. That sounds a G major chord. So if you know those chords, actually G major is kind of a happy sound. E minor is a very sad sound. And so that's what that means actually, is that if you start a song off with E minor or a G major chord, this scale will work to solo over it. And you might know a lot of songs actually like that. They kind of work around G and E minor, C major and D major is your main 1, 6, 4, 5 in the key of G. But if you've seen my songwriting video, we talk about all the different chords in the key of G, G and then A minor and B minor and C major and D major and E minor, F sharp diminished, and how those chords kind of function in different types of progressions. But this scale is to talk over those chords as sad sounds and happy sounds. And so one really cool way of playing the E minor pentatonic scale, it's basically 5 notes from the G major scale. If you know G major, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. It's taking 5 notes out of that G major scale, 1, 2, and 3, and then 5 and 6 of the scale. And so it's basically those 5 notes, G, A, B, and D, and E is actually what we have for a G major or E minor pentatonic scale. So there's a really cool way of playing that particular scale, actually, where you kind of work off of shapes in a way. Like if you're starting with G on the low E string on the 3rd fret, if you thought about that as number 1 of the scale, you could kind of take that note and then go to take the 3rd finger and go to the 5th fret on the low E string for an A note. And then you could kind of take that A note on the low E string and kind of play that note and slide it to 7th fret, kind of getting the sound to slide from the A to the B. So 5 to 7 is a slide on the low E string. And then if you take your first finger, you can go to the A string on the 5th fret, and that's a D note. And then you take your 3rd finger and go to the A string on the 7th fret, and that's a E note. And it's basically those 5 notes. We got G, A, B, D, E. And then from there, actually, if we found the next G on the guitar, and if you see my Talking with the Guitar video on octave shapes, we talk about finding all the G notes on the guitar, kind of using some cool shapes for that. So if that next G note is on the D string on the 5th fret, so we kind of play that note and then take the 3rd finger and go to the D string on the 7th fret. You can take 7th fret and kind of slide from that A to B note, and then you take 1st finger and go to the G on the 7th fret, and then 3rd finger on the A string on the 9th fret, and have exactly the same pattern, but shifted by octave. So you got 3, 5, slide to 7, 5, 7, and on the D string, you got 5, 7, 9, slide, and then 7, 9. Well then, if you take your 1st finger and kind of go to the B string on the 8th fret, that's a G note. And then if you take your 3rd finger and go to the A string on the 10th fret, that's an A note. And then if you take that A note and kind of play it, you can kind of slide that to the 12th fret where the double dots are, and that's a B note. And then you take the 1st finger and go to the high E string on the 10th fret, and that's a D note. And then the 3rd finger goes to the high E string, and that's an E note. So you have that exact same pattern, but starting from the B on the 8th fret. So we basically have the same pattern starting over from 3rd fret on the low E string, to 5th fret on the D string, to the 8th fret on the B string. And what's really cool about that is if we add in the open E and the 12th fret on the high E string, or that last E, then we actually get to play every single note in the pentatonic scale from the low E string all the way up to the high E12. So full 2-octave E minor pentatonic scale. So you got open E, 3rd on the low E for G, 5 on the low E for A, slide from the A to the B on the low E, and then 5th fret on the A for the D, 7 on the A for the E. And then you start that pattern over on the D on the 5th fret with G and then A, and then slide from 7 to 9 for the B. And then we got D on the 7 on the G, E on the 9 on the G string. And then you take the 1st finger and go to the B string on the A, that's your next G note to start it over. So you got G and then 3rd finger for the A, and then slide from the A to the B, and then you go 1st finger on the high E10, and then for the D note, and then 3rd finger for the high E on the 12. So all together, you got 0, 3, 5, slide to 7, 5, 7, 5, 7, slide slide to 9, 7, 9, 8, 10, 10, slide to 12, 10, 12. And you could even reverse that idea. So you could even try going 12 to 10, and then 12, 10 to 8, and then 9 to 7 on the G, and then D string with the 9, 7, and taking the first finger to slide back to the 5, third finger on the A on the 7, and then first finger on the A on the 5th, and for the E and D, and then you got third on the low E string for the B, first finger on the low E5 for the A, third fret on the low E string, and then you got the open E string. So you got 0, 3, 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 7, 9, 7, 9, 8, 10, 12, 10, 12, 12, 10, 8, 9, 7, 9, 7, slide to 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 3, open E. And that way you kind of get that you play E, G, A, B, D, E, G, A, B, D, E, G, A, B, D, E, which can be a very cool way to kind of work it. Because you get and it's kind of a concept, actually, I guess from classical, kind of a long scale idea, where you would try and figure out different ways to kind of make the octave shift to your advantage as you go up the scale so that you can get good fingerings for the scales. And so it's almost like a long scale version of the E minor pentatonic scale. And if you're thinking of that as from the G major scale, it's kind of taking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 of the scale. So 1, 3, 5, or 1, 2, 3, 5, 6 is kind of the numbers we're playing up the scale. So 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. It's kind of the numbers that we're playing. Kind of thinking about it from a major scale point of view. Now, if you're thinking about it from an E minor point of view, actually the shapes would change, right? It's kind of the rude flat 3, 4, 5, and then 5, or 4, 5. Oh, let's see. 1, flat 3, 4, 5, and then flat 7, 1, 1, flat 7, and then 5, 4, flat 3, 1. It's kind of thinking shapes around the E minor, as opposed to the G, which that 1, 2, 3, 5, 6 really gets you a really happy sound. But there are lots of different ways to kind of try and piece that scale into kind of a viable thing to talk with the guitar. So there are a lot of different concepts we could take with that scale actually and kind of apply things to it so that we can think of that as the alphabet and then kind of construct words. And words can be all kinds of different things actually. You might even think about your chords as kind of words. E minor is a sad word, and G is a happy word of some sort. But what you could do actually is kind of, you could work that scale for one, just straight up. But there's some rhythm concepts that are actually pretty easy to kind of add into this, and this can be a good right hand warm up too, where you may want to try doing kind of down up on each of the notes of the scale. And that's called an eighth note actually, when we're kind of feeling the beat in twos. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So that could be a word actually just to talk with the guitar, is kind of working eighth notes as an idea through the scale. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. That kind of thing. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Kind of feeling everything in twos for the eighth note feel. So that'd be a cool thing to do, and you could work on your alternate picking, working down ups with that too. Down up, 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 that kind of thing can be cool. And then when you're tapping your foot to a song you've never heard before, and you hear them dividing things into two parts, you go, oh, I like that eighth note feel. It's very cool. And then something else you may want to try is working with triplets with the scale. So what a triplet is where you're feeling threes on one. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So that might be kind of a cool thing to try too, going through the scale. And I'm actually doing something called alternate picking, where I'm working it as a down, up, down, and then up, down, 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 up. Where the concept is every time you do a downstroke, you got to do an upstroke anyway, so you might as well use that note. So there are all kinds of different ways you can kind of move around the scale, and those could be little words that we say in groups of threes, right? Or we could try fours, and those would be called 16th notes. That would 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So now I'm working everything is down, up, down, up. So these good right hand warm-ups too, just to kind of work the scale and kind of get used to the right hand moving through the scale. Because you don't want to just practice the scale to be a scale. You want to practice the scale so that you can sing stuff with it, which is the concept of talking with the guitar. So this could be like little 4-group notes or words, or we could try 5. Now these get interesting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they're like, it's kind of like the triplet, because you're going down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Let's see, down, up, down, up. So with the 5s, it's kind of weird because you're going down, up, down on the first one, and then up, down, up on the second one. So it's almost like triplets if you're working the alternate picking, but it's probably easier thinking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Try and keep everything down, you know, and that gets a little weird. So you can even try that through the scale. A friend of mine, he likes university. University, 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 university. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can mix them up in some interesting ways too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But you can really pick any number you want to if you like triplets or sextuplets actually work in 6s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that can be kind of a cool thing. Feels very fluid, doesn't it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But I know for me it's almost worth it thinking triplet, 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 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1 hits as hard. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you know, as opposed to 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, interesting thing to kind of play around with rhythm and work your right hand actually is kind of a thing actually through the scale. Now something else you may want to kind of try and play around with is kind of licks. And working through the scale, actually, we're already kind of using a slide lick. So you could find other places you could work slides from. And you could even try slides with different fingers. So all these could be like little slide words. And you could work on these down slides if you wanted to, kind of just to get used to it. So I'm kind of pressing my finger in with enough force to get the sound to kind of carry. So I'm not lifting up the finger at all as it goes down. If you lift up your finger, it'll die. Poor note died. So you want to try and keep just enough pressure to get the slide going on. So you could work slide licks through the scale. And you might want to try that with different fingers too. You could kind of do it with 2 as kind of a concept. You could do it with 3 as kind of a concept. You know, that kind of thing could be very cool, so that you can kind of do slides from whatever finger you need to do a slide to get what sound you want to come out. So that could be a very, very cool thing. And all these licks actually would work over E minor chords or G major chords. One way to practice that idea actually is to kind of, you could even take the E minor for instance and do it down and then do this slide lick. And then E minor and then slides as kind of a concept. Try and say some stuff with a chord. So that we kind of get in your chord, you know, and then you can kind of make up a lick. E minor, chord, lick, lick, lick. And other things you could do actually too is hammer-ons would be another lick concept, like a technical concept. So you can take the first finger on the low E string on the third and kind of get the third finger to kind of go down on the string with enough force to get the sound to carry. That could be a new word, right? So you do hammer-on from 3 to 5, or you do hammer-on from 5 to 7 on the low E, or even through the whole scale. So hammer-ons as a concept, so it's kind of a new word. And then you could take that same idea with pull-offs actually. What a pull-off is where you kind of play the note in front and then you kind of let your finger fall off the string and kind of fall back into the first finger. It's kind of weird. You want to go ahead and set up both fingers before you start a pull-off. But you could do that same idea through the scale and kind of work pull-offs as a concept, as something to say, right? So even pull-offs to open strings could be cool. all our open strings are actually part of this scale, which is the reason why I love this scale. So you may want to try kind of the concept of kind of pull off open. And actually, if you want to steal Sweet Home Alabama, you can do kind of a pull off open concept to kind of get a 3-note grouping, which can be cool. Pull off, open, pull off, open. So that could be kind of a cool thing actually through the scale. Kind of a cool concept to actually kind of play around with. And you can also put hammer-ons and pull-offs together, like hammer-on pull-offs. It's kind of a cool thing to play around with too. Like you can take the 3 to 5 and work that, or move it over to 5, 7. So now I'm doing a hammer-on and then kind of letting my finger fall off the string. So kind of putting hammer-on, hitting the string with enough force, and then kind of thinking straight towards the floor to get the pull-off sound. Kind of one thing, right? So it's kind of a word of 3 syllables, right? That kind of thing. So these are new words that you could say. Working hammer on pull off as a concept, or you could kind of take pull off hammer on as a concept. So we could do the pull off first, and then hammer on back, kind of with the fingers. So we could take 12, pull off the 10, slam 3 back down for the 12. And sometimes getting higher up, actually, and some guitar teachers, I'm sure, Alan, don't like this particular technique. But if you lift up your finger higher, sometimes it makes it easier to get more sound out of the string. So it's almost like winding up for the pitch. That's kind of a concept there. And the bends actually adds vibrato, like little teeny bends could be a cool thing to try and add in all the time too. So I'm kind of ending the bend or the hammer on pull off, and then kind of adding in a little bend on the end. And I was told to practice my bends, so that's what I'm doing right now. So that could be a cool lick too, is kind of hammer on pull off bend, just kind of 3 things. So you can take a couple ideas and put them together too. So what if we did like, and kind of added something to it. Actually, this can be a cool idea too, actually kind of word creation, because you've got slides as kind of a concept, hammer on pull-offs as a concept, bends as a concept, where you can take any of the notes and kind of pull towards the center of the neck to kind of get the string to kind of bend. Actually, that could be a very cool thing in that vibrato idea. Even taking that one thing and kind of practicing through it. There's another word to say, right? So putting these things together is almost like creating your little words out of the concepts or the technical concepts. And you end up with things that you really like the sound of. Like a bend, pull off is kind of a cool idea, you know, so you could even take that idea and try it everywhere. You know, bend, pull off, bend, you know, bend, pull off, bend. You know, you could take like kind of a concept and try and see like what kind of words that you could create out of it. So hammer on, pull off, bend with the 3rd finger, hammer on, pull off, bend with the 1st finger. That could be kind of a cool thing to try through the scale too. So there are a lot of different ways you could kind of approach it. Some of those ways actually kind of end up with whether technical things. For instance, like there's another concept called double stops, which is kind of a violin term where if you got 2 notes together and play 2 notes at the same time, then that's called a double stop. So you could kind of play around with parts of the scale where you could actually kind of take 2 notes of the scale and kind of put them together in interesting ways. So you could kind of hunt for little 2-finger parts that to kind of put together. You might want to cheat a couple. Add a C note here and there. But that can be a very, very cool thing. Or even taking power chords even. That's kind of a concept, like working the root and the 5th for the chord, like a G5 would be the E on the 3rd finger on the A string, 5th. And kind of taking that idea, you could even kind of cheat the scale a little bit, to even take that idea and then reinforce those notes of the scale. That could be another cool word. So E5 is where you got open E and the 1st finger on the A string on the 2nd. G5 is where you got low E on the 5th, 3rd, and then 5th fret on the A string. Slide that shape over 2 frets, then you got 5th fret on the low E string for an A note, and you're kind of adding an E note to it. If you take that shape and kind of go over to 7th fret, you've got 3rd finger on the A string on the F sharp note, which isn't technically part of the scale, but that's okay, you can forgive it. And then from there, you could try D5, doing the 1st finger on the A string on the 5th fret, 3rd finger on the D string on the 5th fret. And then if you take that D5 shape and kind of slide it over 2 frets to 79, that's called an E5, so it's kind of open. You can even throw the E open in on it. So you have E5, G5, A5, D5, D5, E5 is kind of a cool idea too. And you can even take rhythm patterns like down, down, up, down. This is my favorite. So you can even take those power chord shapes and make up stuff with those notes even. You know, working chord progressions with those. And the pentatonic scale would work with solo air. So it actually could be a cool discussion actually to talk about like what type of chord progressions this would work over. Like for instance, I don't know, Sweet Home Alabama starts with D and C and G. So that would work. Sweet Child of Mine starts the same way. D, D, C, C, G, G, D, D. So even though you start on a D chord, you really kind of hear it like you're in the key of G, doing a 5 chord to a 4 chord to 1 chord. Or E minor progressions, like E minor to G, to D progressions to C, or some variation thereof. Actually, that can work really good. Actually, this can work for other chord progressions where you got E minor, G, and then D, and then A major, where it's really in D major, but the E minor starts becoming really prevalent and could be used to kind of solo over it. So like Mad World, Pumped Up Kicks, where you got E minor, G, and then D and A as progressions, Boulevard of Broken Dreams. Blues progressions, where you're working off the E licks, like Before You Accuse Me is a great one to kind of take a look at for that type of feel. This pentatonic works great to solo with blues. And there are some other notes actually we can throw in. There's something called the minor pentatonic, or minor blues scale, which is very close to a pentatonic scale actually, where we can do this pattern. But between the 4th and the 5th, actually, you would add in kind of your, or actually, yeah, it's the A to the A sharp, isn't it? Yeah, it's like where you fill it in from the 4 to the flat 5 to the 5. So you have open 3, and then 5, 6, 7, and then you have 5, 7 on the A string, and then you have 5, 7, 8, 9, kind of filling in the 2nd finger. And what those are actually called is chromatic passing tones. It's where you use a note of the chromatic scale, which is all the notes, E, F, F sharp, D, D sharp, A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, B, to fill in some of the notes in the scale to point to other notes that are part of the scale. So for instance, on the G, you could throw in the G sharp if you wanted to point to an A note. And you could throw in the A sharp between the A and the B to point to B. So A sharp, B could point to B, or reverse, B, B flat, A. So you could kind of use those notes in between that 2nd finger note to fill in parts of the pentatonic scale. So you could play the scale as open and then kind of fill in 3, 4, 5, 5, 6, 7, and then the 5, 6, 7. Wow, that lick doesn't actually happen in this key. But anyway, but it's that idea of the chromatic scale. So you're going 3, 4, 5, 5, 6, 7, 5, 6, 7, and then you could even start that over again, right? 5, 6, 7, 7, 8, 9, 7, 8, 9, 8, 9, 10, 10, 11, 12, 10, 11, 12. So those might be kind of cool words too, is like working that chromatic passing tone idea. It's a little weird because you can go crazy with it and really get any note to point to any other note. It's like my friend Kevin Flower says, you're always a half step away from a note that'll work. But it's that kind of idea where you could use the dissonant note to kind of point to the note in the scale. That kind of thing could be a cool thing. Chromatic passing tone idea could be kind of a cool thing to play around with. And all these licks actually randomly would work with the open E string. So if you want to kind of hear what they sound like related to E, a good idea is to play E as a bass note either, or even as a chord, and then make up a lick. Or you could even change it to G and make it sound happy. Or E minor and make it sad. kind of switch between those, the E minor, and randomly I've switched over into a 3/4 meter. So now I'm thinking down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, G, down, down, up, down, up, down, down, down. So now it's become an Irish jig or something, or a waltz, which is very cool too. So I'm kind of thinking of things in threes. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. But you can really feel it with the down, down, up, down, up too. That down, down, up, down, G, down, down, up, down, up. Or if you see some of my other song videos, actually I talk a lot about the 16th strum pattern. Down, 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 up, down, down, down. Which could be a cool rhythm pattern too, actually. And actually other E minor chords might be kind of a cool idea concept-wise too, actually. Because there are lots of other places to play E minor. You could do E minor 7 where you add in the third finger on the B string on the 3rd fret. E minor 6 might be an interesting sound. Randomly C is where I'm going with this because I'm hearing Eleanor Rigby in my head. And then the E minor is the main thing. But you can even add it in the 3 and 4 and kind of try the E minor to drone. Talk about that in a lot of videos, actually. Or you could try little 7th chord shapes. Actually, these can be very cool where you're kind of blocking in those same notes. Where you play 3rd fret on the A string and then the D string on the 5th to kind of make it kind of E minor that way. If you wanted to, you could even play around with thirds in the E and G, and this can be very cool too. It's like you could take a little piece of C major, a little piece of D major is kind of a 3rd shape, a little piece of E minor actually. So it reminds me of The Choice by Gustavo, actually. It's kind of taking those shapes and just working with E drums can be cool too. And all the licks that we're talking about actually you can use as rhythm guitar concepts too. So you can make it part of your strumming to add in licks. I think that Jimi Hendrix is the master of this idea of chord. But another one of my favorite E minor chords actually is kind of an E minor 7 or E minor 9 actually. This one's kind of cool actually. And a lot of times in jazz and funk you end up making chords bigger. So instead of playing E minor, you might play E minor 7, you might play E minor 9, you might add in an A note or something crazy. Or add other stuff. Or add pentatonic licks to what you're doing. Or add little G major 7s on top of that. These are some weird hit chords for G major 7, which is kind of a wild chord. Because anything with E minor in the bass, G major 7 would be playing the upper part of the E minor 9. So it's an extension of the E minor 9. You could think little G major 7 chords. Right? Like there's this one that's really, really easy to play where you go 12th fret as kind of a bar of the D, G, B, and E and put the 3rd finger on the high E string on the 14th. So it might be kind of cool. It's on the E minor chord. Kind of throw in G hits. That might be an idea. Now there are other ways to organize licks too, actually. Like sometimes some ways of organizing licks I think of as grammar. Actually, it's almost like, hey, okay, you got to organize it like this when you're talking. And one lick idea would be a patterns of 3 lick. And the idea of patterns is you play the scale in groups of 3s. So you'd start out with the E and go E and then G and then A, and then go back to the G and go G and then A and then B, and then you go back to A and go A and then B and then D, and then you go back to the B and then you go B and D and then E, and then you go back to D and then you go D, E, G, and you kind of start that over again with the E, G, A, G, A, B, A, B, D, B, D, E, D, E, G, G, A, G, A, B, A, B, D, B, D, E, D, D, B, A, G, E, D, B, A, G, E, D, B, A, G, E. Or 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, 1. Kind of thinking shapes through the scale, which can be a cool thing to kind of try too. So you can try grouping it in 3s. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Or you can try patterns of 4 where you go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then go back to the G and go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then go back to the A and go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you go back to the B, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So kind of trying to get things grouped into fours. But you end up doing some interesting things to accomplish that actually. There's one really cool concept called finger rolls, where like, for instance, where you got the A and the B and the D and the E is kind of the 4. Well, right after that, you got to go back to low E on the 7. So it's like you're dropping a string is kind of the concept. And if you get your finger in the right angle, you can kind of play your first note kind of flattened out, and then roll your finger, kind of the fingertip for the other note. So I'm using one finger right now to kind of go between two strings. It's kind of almost like a little mini bar idea. So when you hit that part, you might want to try that. Yeah, and the concept really is like, then you don't have to reposition the finger. So anyway, but yeah, you got all kinds of different solutions you could kind of find, or you could try patterns of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That kind of thing could be kind of a cool thing. So you may want to try alternating between it too. So there are a lot of different ways that we can kind of take those notes of the scale too and kind of work word games. And I know this can be kind of a cool thing, I think for me, is where sometimes with the student we'll kind of play a little game. And the idea actually is the basic jazz improv idea of like where you're trying to talk or have a musical conversation. Somebody asks a question and then somebody answers them. So it's like question, answer, question, answer. And there are different ways to kind of organize this type of play. And it really is play, even though it's practice, right? Where you would play one note, and then I would play one note, and then we'd just go back and forth playing one note. And I call that game one note. And so this is a little weird, but like I could play one note on my guitar, and we could be feeling a beat, and then you would play one note after me. So the answer, it would be kind of question, answer, question, answer, question, answer, question, answer, like where we're just kind of playing around with what notes are in the scale, just trying to figure out where they are. So this can be kind of weird, because I'm not necessarily actually in your living room. but it could be kind of cool, like where we kind of play. What I'll do is I'm gonna play a chord and then play a note. And if you want to, when I'm doing the chord, you could be playing a note, and that would be weird. So you'd be going note, chord, note, chord, note, chord, note, chord. I'm just keeping it all E minor, just for ease of play, man. So that might be kind of a cool thing, right? So I'll just do a little bit of that. We got E minor, chord, note, 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 that kind of thing. And then you can play a game called two note, for instance, where maybe I kind of keep the chord going for 2, right? 1, 2, and then do 2 notes. So we got down, down, up, note, note, 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 down, down, up, note, note. Oh, yeah, I cheated. Down, up, note, note, down, up, note, note. That kind of thing can be kind of cool when you're kind of feeling the group in twos. Something else you could try is doing down, down, up, down. Now I'm kind of throwing rhythm ideas at you, but they're going to kind of support the concept, because now we'd switch the games from 2 note to 3 note. So now on the 3 you could have like down, down, up, 1, 2, 3 notes, E minor, down, up, 3 notes. And you can pick notes anywhere in the scale that we've been talking about actually for these games, right? Or if you know other pentatonic scales too, actually, if you've kind of been through all 5 patterns, there's all kinds of ways that you can organize these notes. And there are other notes in other places too. So we're actually kind of playing this game of 3 notes as kind of a game in 3/4, right? Down, up, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. But you could work skips. You could really work anywhere in the scale, or kind of mix it up that way too. And we can work it into a 4/4, even working 4 notes. So then we have down, down, up, down. It's kind of a bass pattern. So we can work down, down, up, down, up. 1, 2, 3, 4 notes. 1, down, up, down, up. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And right now what we're doing actually is all the notes that we're kind of playing that 1, 2, 3, 4 are all on the beat. Actually, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's called a quarter note. Actually, when you're playing right on where your foot would tap, that's called a quarter note. So we're kind of doing 4 quarter notes in the intro, and then kind of going back to that down, down, up, down. And I know we've been sad for a while, right? Maybe we need to kind of switch it to G, or you can even alter it. But the main thing is, as long as your lick lasts for that long, you can really say anything you want to. So we could try working even kind of that 4 there. Down, down, up, down, up. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's a lot of different things that you can try and say with that scale, and even messing up part of that scale. But that's kind of going over some of the basics. Now there are some ways that you can kind of work different games too. Like for instance, you can listen to this video and backtrack, try and hear my lick and go, I'm gonna steal that! And that's how good guitar players are born. So you may want to play around with that too. Now if we're doing more G majors, there are some other cool voicings for G major I would play around with. Actually, we talked about the G major there, where we got just root position, first finger on the A, second finger on the low E, third finger on the high E on the third. Something else you can do is first finger on the A string, second finger on the low E on the third finger on the B string on the third, and the pinky on the high E string on the third. And that kind of opens you up to do kind of that E minor 7 change if you wanted to kind of work that too. So that would be another possibility. Now if you want to make it into G major 7, there's a really cool, interesting way that you can do that in root position. I think we talked about that in some videos. First finger on the A string, second finger on the high E second, third finger on the low E string on the third. Or you can kind of do like an A minor shape with 2, 3, and 4 and take one on the low E string on the third fret, kind of mute down the A string and avoiding the E on that particular shape. Or you can make it G major 9 or 13, actually, G major 13, by going first finger on the low E third, second finger on the D string fourth, third finger on the G string fourth, taking the pinky and kind of doing the top 2 strings there. So kind of G major there too. And we kind of talked about something called a drop 2 voicing actually earlier without really talking about a drop 2 voicing. But there are particular cool G major 7 voicings you may want to play around with. One I like is a piano voicing where you go a D string on the 5, third finger on the G string, fourth, second finger on the B string, third fret, first finger on the high E string on the first fret. It's kind of like this diagonal coolness on the top 4 strings. That's one way to play G major 7. But a lot of times rather than doing the piano voicing where we're going root 3, 5, 7, a lot of times we do some things called drop 2s. Where we take the second voice on the root and we drop it below it. So we would go to a 5 root 3 and then keep the 7 on the top, which is a little funky. So if we kind of tried the first one of those drop 2 voicings, you'd have first finger on the E high E third finger or third fret on the B string, third finger on the G string on the 4, second finger on the D string on the 4. That would be like a little G major 7, which could be very, very cool. Another G major 7 is actually really, really easy, where you do first finger across the D, G, B, and E all on the 5th fret, and then we kind of take the pinky and go to the high E on the 7th fret. So I'm kind of playing the 5 root. Whoa, that's a C major 7. Whoa, we're on G major 7. My bad. G major 7. So next voicing. Oh yeah. So we were there. Yep, on the 7 root or 7 3 5 root. So 7 3 5 root for that one. And then from the 7 we'd be going to the root, and then you could take 3rd finger and go over the 7th fret on the G, B, and E, kind of on the 7th fret. So I got 5th fret on the D string, and then you got 3rd finger over the top 2. And the other 2 were voicings I threw at you with the E minor, making it E minor 9, which is kind of crazy. You got 1st finger on the B string 8, 2nd finger on the D string 9, 3rd finger on the high E on the 10, and the pinky on the G on the 11. Nasty, weird, spidery chord. And then from there, you can take the 1st finger and kind of bar 12th fret over the D, G, and B, and go 14th fret on the high E string. That's another way to play G major 7. So all of those can be really cool chords to work as hits as well when you're playing. So you can even have kind of the G major hit, 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 G major hit. Kind of play around with some of those voicings and kind of hits, but the main thing is to take the scale and kind of play different things with it, kind of work different words with it, so that you can then just kind of talk to yourself with the guitar, because everybody just wants to talk to themselves. It's a goal for everybody. So we can play the low E string open, and then we can kind of make up any lick that we wanted to, and I call this free form actually. Grand Canyon. Trying to paint a picture of that. And if you know how to play harmonics too, that could be a cool thing to add in with that, actually, now that we're on kind of this open-ended Spanish-esque style. So you could kind of lightly touch the 12th fret on the high E or the B or the G or the D or the A, and I'm not really pressing in all the way, I'm kind of lightly touching the string, like right about there. And you can kind of bring your pick back closer to the bridge too to make that a little bit clearer. So we kind of dig that sound. Actually, the cool thing about that is the top strings on the D, G, B, and E make a little E minor 7 chord. On the 7th fret, they make a little B minor chord. And on the E, it kind of makes it a little E minor chord. So I wrote this tune once where I was kind of working that idea of kind of harmonics for accompaniment. So that could be kind of a cool thing to play around with too, kind of playing open E and then making up a lick. Okay, that was a dumb trick. Bend behind the nut. No. Chromatic, passing, toe. Pentatonic, no. Just some ideas there about how you might want to kind of approach your guitar playing from a pentatonic scale idea, working any song that you know in E minor or G major, actually kind of adding in those lead licks in between what could be your chord progression, or even just using those notes to play lead guitar over anything pretty much that starts off in E minor or G. You got a safe bet to try that scale and kind of see if you can figure out something to say with it. So good luck!